So Bloomerang is here as our guest today, also one of our amazing presenting sponsors that we are extremely, grateful for and of to have this ongoing relationship with you. We are also streaming on Roku, and so we are in several many million homes.
39
and
million.
Okay, great. I always forget that number, so thanks for reminding.
It's inconceivable. It's inconceivable that 39 million people could get access to us like that.
That's cool.
And you just walk into the smart remote and say nonprofit, even better nonprofit show, and we will pop up.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, really cool.
Yes.
So you're getting a lot of publicity, Stephen, with your Bloomerang. So.
Roku star. I love it.
Yeah, Roku star. Julia Patrick, happy Friday. Julia is the CEO of the American Nonprofit Academy. I'm Jarrett Ransom, your nonprofit nonprofit nerd, CEO of the Raven Group. And super thrilled, Stephen Shattuck is joining us today, Chief Engagement Officer. And Stephen's looking a little funny today because he's been keeping a secret from us. And Stephen, what is the secret that you've been working on behind our backs?
I didn't mean for it to be a secret. I didn't know I was allowed to talk about it maybe. But I wrote 200 pages of dad jokes and nerdy data. If anybody wants to spend their hard-earned money on it and has insomnia, they can check out that book. I think it's okay.
I love it.
Julia read it. What do you think, Julia?
You know what? Hey, listen, so I'm a reader by, choice. My family was all like semi-professional athletes, to this day, very athletic. I was
really
an athlete at reading.
Julia was a pole jumper.
Really?
I was the librarian, patron of the month many times, let me tell you. I loved this book. And, I get sent a lot of books. I buy a lot of books. And so I'm pretty judgmental, to be frank. And so I really, really liked it. And I was telling Stephen off camera, I'm going to suggest it to a couple organizations that I work with to kind of create like a reading book club. And we used to do this in the 80s, well before the two of you were born, where we would have books like by, Peter Drucker or whatever, and we would chat about them. And then, we would read a certain number of chapters and then come back. I kind of feel like your book is one of those that we could do that with, to be honest with you. And I think what's cool about it is that it takes some of the ideas across all of the different strata within an organization. Mm-hmm. So your tech people to your fundraising, to your programs. And so I'm very interested in how you weave this story together. Robots Make Bad Fundraisers by Stephen Shattuck. You can order it on Amazon. Mm-hmm. It's really interesting. And I know how hard it is to write. So
yeah, it's a slog.
It's hard. So when did you start?
I think last January. It was like a January to January kind of thing. So we kind of finished it. And it's all written pre-COVID, and then it came out post-COVID, which was sort of interesting because obviously we didn't expect that. But a lot of what I talk about in the book is swinging back to more personal touch and building the relationship, and it seems like that's more important than ever now. So I feel like it's actually a kind of a good time for the book to come out. If it was just kind of a normal summer, I don't know that it would maybe have the meaning that it sort of carries right now when we're all social distanced and kind of feeling isolated. So
I have to tell you, I would have never known that you finished it pre-COVID.
Really? Okay. That makes me feel better.
Well, I'm like stunned because so much of what it says in here has to do with the technological aspect of communicating with our donors and how we're not doing it correctly. We have this phenomenal opportunity with all these different things. I mean, you're very agnostic. You don't really talk about Bloomerang, which is the company that you work with, and so I think there's a lot of credibility for me. You weren't it's not a Bloomerang sales book.
No, they were pretty supportive of me, but it was a lot of like Saturdays and Sundays. So my poor family, missed me a little bit.
Yeah.
But you're right. I think there's all these tools out there, right? And we can do amazing things. We can talk to any donor, no matter where they are, as long as they're awake. We can A/B test, emails, and we can. I mean, there's awesome apps out there that'll, tell you what your suggested gift amount should be on your online giving software. Just like amazing things. But I feel like oftentimes maybe we get distracted by some of these tools that are available to us and forget that, hey, maybe we should pick up the phone every once in a while and call a monthly donor to say thank you. Maybe write a handwritten note to a brand new donor, or attempt to have a video chat with someone. So my goal with the book is maybe to kind of swing that pendulum back away from these apps and these tools that are meant to be time savers, and that's a good reason to invest in software or a piece of technology, but not at the expense of replacing the fundraisers day-to-day work of building those relationships with donors. And I kind of have felt that over the last 8 to 10 years that's kind of being supplanted a little bit by technology. It's not an anti-technology book. Technology is great. It's just, like you said, kind of where things are applied and where they aren't.
I think one of the things I found interesting about it was that it really started for me to put the pieces together of where we should be using technology, how we can use it, and when we misuse it, how it really actually makes things worse.
Yeah.
And it turns things off, because to use your nomenclature, it makes somebody feel like, well, there's a robot behind this and they don't know me. And so I felt that was interesting, is like how you pulled those pieces together, for me at least.
I feel like the nonprofit sector is like the last bastion of this, because if you observe the for-profit sector, I mean, if you go try to order an appliance, or you stay at a hotel when you can, or call customer service because your internet goes out, we're just constantly talking to robots, right? And like us as fundraisers, we're sort of like the last line of it's actually human to human connection in most cases. And I don't want that to go away. That's kind of my big challenge in the book is, don't let that go away. Because if everybody turns into that, it's just going to be transactional. And I think fundraising will really suffer if that happens.
Well, and we've talked so much during this time about the huge impact on return on relationship. We all talk about ROI, right? But I've really been driving home this return on relationship. And we had another guest on previously, and it's like, more now than ever, people want to hear your voice. They really do. They don't want a robot. They really want to have that engagement. But more than that, oftentimes, Stephen, I think we automate so much through technology, specifically for that lower donor segment, right? Until you give it this level, are you put in and placed into someone's portfolio? Right. Are you offered coffee? Are you, sent some swag, or able to have a one-on-one conversation with the development officer? But I have not read the book yet. Julia said something about, but I will. I promise.
In all fairness, I haven't handed it over to her, and she's been out of town. So.
And so really about how do we cultivate and steward donors at all giving levels? And I think your book might mention some of that.
Yeah, I know. I always try to steer people away from kind of judging a donor by their dollar amount. Now, there are some common sense things that come into place. I mean, if you've got a high gift volume, you can't call every single donor you get. And you might want to look at things like the gift amount and maybe the channel that they were acquired through. But there's a lot of research out there to suggest that new donors don't give at capacity, right? They're not going to drop 10 grand on you as their first gift when they don't necessarily know too much about you, perhaps. I mean, it does happen, and it tends to make the news when it does happen. But and $5, that may be a lot of money. I remember when I was in college and didn't have two nickels to rub together, but they were causes I really cared about. And that was a meaningful gift to me. And maybe $50 to, someone just starting out in their career, and then maybe, $100, a typical middle-class household. That's a lot of money, whereas it may not seem like a lot on the receiving end. So it's more about nurturing that relationship and really treating donors, making them feel good about contributing those hard-earned dollars, especially now in this time of COVID, where there's so much economic uncertainty, and people are really hurting out there. I mean, to get a donation now, I think is significant no matter what the dollar amount is.
Right.
That makes me, reminds me, the first time I raised my paddle at a live auction. And really, it wasn't the auction itself, it was the paddle raise. So it was the fund a need.
Okay.
And thankfully, the auction went down to a level in which I felt a little comfortable with, but it was still stretching it, and I was like, oh God, why did I do this? But then, I mean, of course, you have the flood of endorphins of giving and knowing that you're helping to impact that. And so I love that, and I also use the analogy to many of my clients that it's like giving our kids $5 and a grocery list to go to the corner store, and we say, we need bread, we need milk, and come back with the change in the receipt. Well, they get bread, they get milk, they get Skittles, they get Coke, and it's like, here's your penny.
Right.
Like, no, that's not, you didn't essentially use my money in the way of which I've asked. And that's kind of the analogy I like to use with board members specifically, to say, look, this $50, this $10 could very well be a test gift. Absolutely. They want to know how you treat and steward them, especially with the statistics showing people can give at a much more higher capacity level.
Absolutely. Right? And what you said about endorphins, I think, is a really key point, because I touch on this on the book, where, you gave, you feel really good, you feel like, geez, yeah, that hurt a little, but I'm making the world a better place. And then what happens immediately? You get this scary looking receipt from the nonprofit, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't even say thank you. It just says, your bank account will be charged, blah, blah, blah. And then, maybe that endorphin starts to go down a little, and then you don't get a thank you. And then you just get thrown into whatever automated communication segment, like you said, and just those good feelings go away right away, instead of saying, oh, geez, we got a new donor. Let's call that person, figure out what's going on, get to know them, rather than let's put them in an automated, welcome sequence. And it's impossible to know what's going to resonate with that person without getting to know them first. And that's the concern of mine, is that, we think we can automate all these things rather than celebrate them internally. I think there's a big culture shift that needs to take place as well. Like, oh, we got a new donor, let's celebrate that internally. We got a new monthly donor. I think that's a big part of it as well.
Yeah, it's setting the culture for that, really setting the culture. And again, I haven't read your book, but also bringing in other, ambassadors of the organization. It's not always the CEO. It's not always the chief development officer. It's not always, those higher level individuals. There's many other people on your team that can help you with this.
Yeah. They're board members, volunteers. I mean, right now, none of us can really interact with in-person volunteers anymore. Maybe they still want to help us out. Why not reach out to them and say, hey, would you be willing to make a couple phone calls a month for us, or maybe write a few handwritten notes? I mean, double impact there. You're engaging a volunteer who can't help you because they can't come out and hang out with the animals or pull weeds or, check people in or whatever. And the benefit of stewarding those donors. And maybe to be a little more impactful coming from a volunteer than an employee. That might be interesting to test as well.
So I want to have you put on your robot goggles for a second here.
I'm ready.
I want you to tell us, I thought this was fascinating. Several points of the book, you go into actually even different cities, and you spend a certain amount of money with different types of organizations, everything from gun control to animal welfare, everything in between. And then you monitor what happens.
Yeah.
I thought that was, I have to say, kind of shocking.
Not much happened.
I was like, are you kidding me? I really thought it would be better.
So I was robot donor, right? So I gave $20, $15, depending on the city. And my rule was I had to give them any bit of information they asked for. So if they asked for a phone number, they got it. They asked for my mom's maiden name, my favorite breed of cat, whatever. And I don't, this is probably 200-300 gifts from all the cities I've done. I think maybe 1 or 2 phone calls. And remember, I'm a brand new donor to all these people. So, and most of the time, all I get is that automatic receipt. You get the template letter in the mail, maybe. Not every time did I get that. Very few welcome kits, very few phone calls. Just the one. I think I got one nice voicemail that seemed to celebrate the fact that I was a new donor. Hey Stephen, thanks so much. I noticed it was your first gift. Gee, we'd love to get to know you more and find out what drove that and what answer or what questions we can answer. And this is kind of a few years back. I don't know that it's probably gotten any better. I doubt it has. And we're seeing these stats, online, donor retention for first time donors down every single year. And I think a big part of it is we just say, well, we got them, they're going to get our automated stuff and, hopefully they'll give again.
We'll drop them in the newsletter. We'll touch them every so often.
Right.
So you move on from there, and then you have a pretty substantial chapters. I wouldn't even say chapter because it's multi-chapters, sections of a section with subchapters about Giving Tuesday. And you said some pretty surprising things that I've started to hear, and what I was interested about, and I'd love to get your feedback, is I've started to hear these same things from larger organizations.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Who are like, wow, this is, a great idea, but it's not working in the way that it should. So talk to us about Giving Tuesday.
Well, Giving Tuesday to me is kind of like the culmination of all this phenomenon, right? This sort of factory approach to fundraising, automation, lack of segmentation, lack of personalization. It all seems to really like manifest on one day a year where everyone is sending an email blast to everybody, regardless of the type of donor. Everyone's basically saying the same thing. So I try to break it down in this section of, okay, here are some ways, and I love Giving Tuesday. This is not an anti-Giving Tuesday thing at all, but how can we apply these personal sort of strategies, these personal outreach things on Giving Tuesday, rather than just kind of succumbing to, well, we got our Giving Tuesday email, hope it works. So we talk about, what should you do with monthly donors on Giving Tuesday? That's always an odd one where, you're giving monthly and then you just get this, random email blast on Giving Tuesday. Hey, it's Giving Tuesday and you should give because it's Giving Tuesday. And it's like, well, wait a minute, I'm already a monthly donor. But a couple of the organizations I give monthly to, they did some nice things where they said, hey, Stephen, you're a monthly donor. Wanted to say thank you for that. You may not be aware, but you probably are. It's Giving Tuesday. Your inbox is probably flooded. We're asking you, we know you give monthly, but we're doing a special project right now. We're kind of asking, for a little bit extra support. Would you be willing to give above and beyond what you normally give monthly, which is way better than just getting, the random Giving Tuesday email that's sent to everybody. So if you, that's coming up, that's here and, it won't be long, 3 or 4 months.
Right.
I think you'll maybe pull away a couple things you could do differently, specifically on Giving Tuesday, to kind of break out of that sort of factory mindset.
Yeah.
I think
I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I think a Giving Tuesday is scheduled on March 947.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. No, yeah, it's 9:45, but it's pretty close.
Oh, 9:45.
That was great. I thought it was really clever within talking about Giving Tuesday on that whole thing. You illustrate the need for really segmenting your communication. And how it's not just a function of data management so that you're not like, dear gobbledygook, you're
right.
like, or, the worst, dearly departed, like using the ex-wife's name or the past wife's name, whatever.
Yeah.
Which is like horrific. But talk about, really pulling the brakes and saying, what would I say to them in person? What is the connection that I need to be making? And I thought that was really sharp. I mean, I know even within my own company, and we're for profit, we struggle with that.
Right. Yeah, it's hard. I mean, it is an investment, right? I mean, these are not easy things to do. They're not cheap things to do in some cases, but I think they do generate more ROI than maybe things that we do spend time on that maybe isn't necessarily worth that investment. Like maybe, special events that barely break even and burn out our employees. And again, nothing against events, but I think it's just a matter of prioritization. And you're true. I think the main thesis of the segmentation bit is, treat people differently, right? Think of your own personal life. On your birthday, you probably get a wide variety of gifts from different people. Not only are those gifts different, but how you may react to those gifts is also going to be different, right? You're going to thank a coworker differently than you're going to thank your 9-year-old son, right? And I think that if you apply sort of that mentality to the donations you receive, then you're going to start to be actually, giving people a kind of a personal response that is appropriate for the type of donor they are. And where technology gets in the way is when, and a lot of it falls on the vendors. And this is something that I actually kind of want to write a second book about, where the vendors aren't doing us a lot of favors, right? They kind of come at us with these marketing messages saying, we're going to save you time, and I know it's hard for fundraisers. You're overworked, you're underpaid. Any efficiency you can carve out is great, but the vendors come in and say, we'll handle it, right? We're going to just automate everything. You can push one button and all your appeals will get sent out. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Are there other things that we should perhaps automate and let us kind of maintain that personal touch? So I think, the products out there, their marketing messages don't do us a lot of good and maybe exacerbate the problem.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a huge proponent for donor segmentation and just overall constituency segmentation, knowing who your financial donors are, your time donors, your board members, your legacy givers. There's so many different ways you can slice and dice, really your donor list, but also, creating your donor avatar and really knowing who you're talking to. I've been so, really pivot in my life. I know it's like a drinking game. There you go, Julia, right on cue.
I'm sorry.
It's not even noon yet. You said pivot. Come on.
It's water.
It's water.
I believe it.
But really, knowing who I'm talking to and embracing my voice, for me as a nonprofit nerd, like I nerd out in my newsletters. I nerd out in the way I talk to my, my support base. And I work so hard to help nonprofits identify their authentic voice, help them stand out from that template letter. Because yes, vendors, so many different tech companies will say, we've got it for you. And it's all, customized. Well, it's customized in those insert fields. And I kid you not, Stephen, I got an email last week with the, it was a mail merge, but it was an email and it said, "Dear removed."
Yeah. There's a chapter in the book about that. You're going to love it.
It was all to me. And I was like, "Dear removed." And I wanted to reply back and be like, why am I not removed?
Right.
Yeah.
What did I get removed from?
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things that, in your book, Stephen, for me, you actually gave very specific things you can do. We all hear the horror stories of deer removed or deer deceased. But what Robots Make Bad Fundraisers did is it gave me some very specific strategies.
Good.
And so I think that's one of the other things. For those of you who work with more sophisticated CRMs, or you're, looking at how you can be more mindful or more strategic, you give some very specific things that even with my team, we're going to start looking at, because I thought it was
good,
super brilliant. Now we don't have much time at all. And so, which is like shocking, but I say this every day. I would love, you do this at the very end. And again, I'm kind of shocked that you didn't write this pre-COVID, or that you wrote this pre-COVID, because already some of your prognostications are coming true. So give us a quick, synopsis on what you think the future snapshot's going to be, because you are in the tech sector of our nonprofit business. Yeah.
One thing I'm really seeing is it kind of reflects how TV evolved over time, where there were like 3 channels and now there's 1 billion, including your awesome Roku channel. I think the same thing is happening with software. You don't have to go and get everything from one company that says, oh, we do it all. We're going to handle your peer-to-peer, your email, your auctions. You can go and find the awesomest, auction software and the best peer-to-peer and the best donor database. and you can link them all together, and you have it's like a democratization of software, and the prices come down with it, which is great. So I think that'll be the trend. I don't think, these all-in-one systems will be kind of the norm like maybe they were in the previous century and in the early 2000s. That's definitely one thing. Another one I'm really interested in is this concept of gamification, not only on the donor side, and you see that kind of on peer-to-peer where people can see how much money they've raised, and maybe they get these little badges and rewards for raising money. But I think you'll see tools that fundraisers also use some of those elements to kind of keep people motivated. Like the Fitbit and the financial software that kind of rewards you for doing good things, paying down credit cards, and going out and running a mile every day. I think you'll start to see that in some of your productivity tools as well. I hope Bloomerang is one of the people to do it first, because there's a ton of research that shows that the sort of feedback mechanism really encourages people to keep doing it.
Yeah. I thought that was interesting because I can see that with Share the Meal, the United Nations project, Charity Water, obviously.
Yep.
They've been doing some stuff like that. So yeah, I thought that was super interesting. Well, wow. We always love having you on. We really do. We think you're like crazy fun. I love you even more because you had your robot glasses.
Yep.
That's just the best.
It really shows my receding hairline. That might have been a mistake. I might not do that. It's okay.
You know what? Just because you have so much brain activity.
Yeah, that's it.
That's what's caught.
Can you tell my wife that? That would really help me out.
Well, it's been great. Hey, sister, take us home.
Thank you so much, Stephen. You're always just a joy, a breath of fresh air. You're special because we usually do an asked and answered on Friday. We save our Fridays.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, just Julia and I.
I feel bad.
No, feel honored, because don't feel bad at all. It's wonderful. We wanted to ask you so many questions that you've been able to answer, not only through your book, and I can't wait. So hurry up, Julia. I'm going to need that copy soon.
You'll love it.
I can't wait. So Julia Patrick, CEO of the American Nonprofit Academy. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I'm Jarrett Ransom, CEO of the Raven Group, also known as your nonprofit nerd. And we have been joined by our favorite robot himself, Stephen Shattuck of Bloomerang, Chief Engagement Officer. So check out his book. You can buy it. I would like a signed copy. So somehow we're going to have to get this book
One
signed.
day it'll happen.
Yes, one day past COVID. So thanks so much, Stephen. I hope you have an amazing weekend. Can't wait to have you on again. And if you get your Roku set up, make sure, you tell your wife that she can find about your receding hairline and what we think about it on the Roku channel. So make sure you get that set up for her. But for those of you that do have Roku, you can find us online there. Again, thanks to Bloomerang and all of our amazing presenting sponsors to keep the conversation going on a national level for our nonprofit community. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been wonderful. And as we say every episode, stay well so you can do well, and we will see you on Monday. Bye everyone.
Bye.